What is up, my butter biscuits? In today's video, we're going to be talking about Jeffree Star. This is such a trip to me. I literally sat down to film this video because I was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about some details that he just did in a podcast. And I was like, okay, I'm going to talk about this. And as I'm sitting here scrolling on social media, I see that he posts on his Instagram stories that he almost got ran off the road by his neighbor, and it's now being investigated by the law. The police were there in his story. I will show you guys the story within today's video. But I was like, oh my gosh, I literally was sitting down. So this is going to be a little bit of like two different parts of the video here. We're going to talk about him almost getting ran off the road by his neighbor. Apparently this has been going on for a hot minute now that he has problems with his neighbor, which is so crazy to me because to my understanding, I've been to Wyoming like 2 times, and to my understanding of like him as well as like almost everybody there, you're really spread out from your neighbor. I think that this person must have like a serious problem with him, like to go out of the way to like want to like ram him off the road. Do you know what I mean? And on top of that too, like how could you even have issues with your neighbor like that when they're so far away? If you guys have watched Jeffree Star's snaps before, his Instagram stories, you guys would see like there's like nothing around him. There's literally like mountains. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel like this person is like going way out of their way for that. Another thing, we're going to be talking about the podcast that he recently just did. Well, actually, this was like 3 weeks ago, but I literally barely saw it. So I was like, oh my gosh, I want to talk about this. Because he said within that video who his initial investors were going to be for his brand. And I was like, what? Like, it was mind-blowing to me. He did talk a lot within that interview. I do want to say our podcast. I do want to say you guys should check it out in its entirety. I will not be playing any clips from the podcast because the past 2 times that I've done that, it's so weird. I had to like do a copyright claim dispute because they were saying that it was not fair use. And I'm like, it's literally fair use. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just like, let me not post any more clips in there because then I'll have to like speed it up and it'll be a you know what I mean? So I'm just gonna basically, I took notes and we're gonna talk about it within today's video. So if you guys are interested in that, of course, go and keep on watching. Make sure you guys click down below. This is my 3rd video that I'm filming just right back to back, so I'm like, woo, a little out of it. Make sure you guys click down below. Head over to my 2nd channel. That's my travel channel with my brother. I upload new videos there every single Sunday and new shorts every Wednesday. So make sure you guys go show some love over there. Give this video a big thumbs up, and let's go and get into it. So the first things that I want to go ahead and talk about are the podcast right here. He was recently on the Going Mental podcast. I do want to say, in my personal opinion, I don't know who this person is that was doing that kind of like the interview or the podcast with him, but it seemed like a little bit more of an interview style podcast. You know what I mean? I want to say, I feel like she should ask better questions, a little bit more hard-hitting questions. And from what I was like seeing, I don't know, she didn't really know too much about him. She didn't even know who Shane Dawson was. Literally, like he had to finish her statement on there that she was like, Shane, like she literally didn't even know who he was. And I'm like, what? Like, it's obviously totally fine if you don't know who Shane Dawson is. I just feel like if you're going to have somebody on your podcast, you got to do a little bit of research. And I feel like his Shane Dawson docuseries was a really, really big thing, especially because she was focusing a lot on YouTube. You know what I mean? So I feel like she should have known that, and she should ask more hard-hitting questions. Because I am so sorry, but y'all, if I have Jeffree Star on a podcast, I'm gonna ask some deep questions. I'm gonna ask some real questions. Do you know what I mean? He probably wouldn't like me because he would be like, "Oh, are you putting me on the spot?" But I'm just nosy, and I would want to know those juicy details, and I know everybody else wants to too. You know what I mean? Anyways, within this podcast, he starts it off by talking about his upcoming and talking about his life. If you guys are really curious to know why Jeffree is the way he is, or was the way he was, let's say, as far as like controversial and really outlandish, you guys can watch this podcast and you guys will see and have a better understanding. It's because he did have a rough upbringing, so obviously a lot of the things that he was doing was for like attention, and he, you know, acted out basically. Moving on here, I'm literally looking at my little bullet points only because I would like to like play clips within this video, but then I was like, let me not deal with the monetization thing. Anyways, one thing that he said within this podcast, if you guys checked it out, that I was like, okay, once again, I want to know, where is this coming from? Where do I get this data? Because I would like to know. I am so nosy. I'm so curious. He said that his brand, when he was first like introducing himself, is one of top 10 in America. Where do you come out with a statement like that? I'm not saying that he's lying. I'm not calling him a liar. As I've mentioned before, so many people have said, like James Charles as well as Shane Dawson's palette, they have said like it's the #1 selling palette, this or that. But I'm like, how do you know that? Because in order to say that this is the #1 selling palette in like the world or in the US, you need to have some type of like, you know, inventory from other people's brands. Like say, for example, if I have a brand and I come out and I say like this is the #1 selling palette in the whole entire world, well, I'd have to compare it to every other brand out there. Do you know what I mean? I would have to know their inventory and to know how many they sold. Do you know what I mean? So I'm like, where do you come up with this information? Because he did say that his brand was top 10 in America. So I'm like, Where is that information? Because I want to know. And is that based upon sales? Is that based upon popularity? Because I'm like, I would imagine that obviously like Mac would be above his brand, and like probably even Makeup Forever and like a lot of other brands. Do you know what I mean? So I'm just really curious. I'm not calling him a liar. I'm just like, where do you get this information? Because I want to know. I would like to really talk about that within a video to know how well people are doing, in their brands. Anyways, he did touch on the topic too, about his ex beauty guru friends, and I did want to comment on this as well too, because he did say that in that video that his two of his ex friends made videos that were full of lies that kind of set the beauty community up for failure. Because ever since then, the beauty community kind of went to trash, as he didn't say that exactly, but he kind of alluded to that within his podcast, and I was just kind of like, you know what? I feel like, correct me if I'm wrong. Yes, I know that drama was like really crazy, but don't you guys feel like that drama brought more viewers in? Do you know what I mean? I feel like just what it is now is the whole like 30-minute reviews and the whole, everybody doing this product review and this makeup look is just not that popular anymore. Everybody turns to short form content. Not that many people are watching long form content. Do you know what I mean? Because I do feel like beauty content here on YouTube is not thriving like it once was, but I do feel like it is on TikTok and Instagram Reels. Do you know what I mean? And even Facebook Reels. I see Facebook makeup reels that are like super, super popular, getting millions of views. So I understand what he's saying, but I don't feel like it was because of the drama, because personally, I feel that whole drama was bringing more people into the beauty community. Obviously, because everyone was like, oh my gosh, let's see what the drama is about. You know what I mean? Y'all, this is the main part that I wanted to talk about. This is the last part. We're going to talk about the podcast, and then we'll talk about him getting almost rammed off the road by his neighbor. He said within his video that his initial investors were going to be Akon and Kat Von D. Now, this kind of blew my mind. Obviously, we know what happened with Kat Von D and Jeffree Star. They had a whole big outing. Y'all, that was a mess within itself. I was like, whoa, watching that unfold, because I don't know, I kind of like always looked at them like, oh my gosh, that's so cool that they're like best friends. She had a lipstick named after him, and it was like supposedly the #1 selling pink lipstick in Sephora's, and like, y'all, their friendship just went to hell, like, honestly. But I never knew, and I never heard before, that she was supposed to be an initial investor in his brand, which I do want to say, wouldn't you guys find that to be a little bit weird? Because I'm just going to be honest, like, I love my friends to death. Literally, I'm closer to my friends than I am to my family, honestly. But if I had a makeup brand, I don't think that I would be investing in my friend's makeup brand as well too, only because wouldn't that be taking away from your competition? Do you know what I mean? Or, I mean, maybe obviously you can look at it as like, oh, okay, maybe if I invest in their brand, then both of our brands could succeed. But then that's kind of like you owning two makeup brands. Like, why would you own two makeup brands? Do you know what I mean? Maybe I'm not really understanding the full logistics of it. Maybe there is like really a smart business opportunity behind it. Maybe because you're like, okay, then I'm going to be profiting off my friends. I don't really know. But I would kind of see that as in like, oh my gosh, it's going to get messy down the road. Do you know what I mean? If you're investing in your friend's makeup brand, what if your brand does bad and then your friend's brand's doing better, and then you can't afford your launches, and then your friend's brand's over here doing all their launches and they're not helping you out? Like, do you know what I mean? Like, I just feel like there could just be so much messiness going on. Even investing, period, with a friend. Do you know what I mean? Getting in business with a friend, I feel like is super, super messy. And I'm like, ooh, I don't know about that. Do you know what I mean? Personally. But it just did blow my mind that I was like, wow, Akon and Kat Von D were supposed to be the initial investors. And I do want to say he did mention within that video, though, that he does have one investor who is a lawyer. I want to say he is a trademark lawyer or something like that. And he's pretty much the only one, but he does own the majority of his company. I was like really tripped out about that, y'all, because I was like, I've always been interested, because I know other people have said it before about investors, and people have made other comments. And I want to say, I don't want to seem like it's saying like it was like, directed towards him, but maybe it was a little bit, you know what I mean? That I'm just kind of like, I've always wondered what his investor situation was. I want to know like how much did his investor buy in, how much do they own. I literally looked onto Wikipedia. They do mention him. His name's Jeffree as well too, but it doesn't really say the details as far as like how much did he invest and how much does he own in the company. All Jeffree says is that he owns the majority of it, but that technically could be like 51-49. Do you know what I mean? So who really knows? Anyways, we're going to be talking about now his story that he literally just uploaded, that he almost got rammed off the side of the road by his neighbor. This is mind-blowing to me, that I'm just like, what? Like, can you just imagine out of nowhere your neighbor just being deranged and like running off the road? It literally reminds me of that show. If you guys watch Idea a lot, they have a show on there called Fear Thy Neighbor. If you guys have never checked that out, check it out. It is so crazy. It's actual stories. They're like reenacted. But it's so crazy to know that there is just some really crazy neighbors out there. Anyways, I'm going to go ahead and play his Instagram story for you guys right now. So go ahead and check that out.
Kate? Another day. Another lawsuit. Oh, Lord. Hey. You guys, if anything happens to me, I just want it to be documented that today one of my neighbors did try to run me off the road and kill me. The incident is being investigated right now. It was very disturbing. And things are getting a little Yellowstone out here. The neighbors need mental help. This story with my neighbors mentally abusing me and harassing me is being documented by a very large publication. We are working on a massive story, and they literally tried to run me off the road and kill me about 30 minutes ago. The people were investigating. It's insane. In other news, you guys, I am #1 in all of Miss Tiki right now, Miss TikTok. This happened hours before all of these incidences today. We went to Walmart for hours. We went shopping. I'm about to go be a cashier at my store for probably about 5 hours. So I'm gonna go meet customers and just get away for a little bit because today has been exhausting. But I'll see y'all soon. And thank you so much for all the love.
So as y'all can see, that is some craziness right there. Like, I'm like, what is going on over here? I'm a little bit mind blown about that because I'm like, what? Like, you literally moved to Wyoming to be in peace, to have like your own piece of land, your big piece of land, and to be far away from other people, and then you're having drama with your neighbor. I do have to say this though, I'm curious to know like what's the backstory. Like, there has to be something, you know what I mean? Like, maybe this guy is like anti-yak, maybe he just doesn't like Jeffree's barn being like pink and black. Like, who knows? There has to be some type of reason. There has to be some type of backstory. So I'm really curious to know. But he did say that there is going to be an investigation about this. So I'm really curious to know like what is going on, because there has to be a backstory. Like, this is not just gonna pop up out of nowhere. Do you know what I mean? So I will be making a follow-up video as soon as some details come out about this, because I'm super curious to know. Because I just feel like, damn, that's really unfortunate. You're gonna move all the way to Wyoming, y'all. And if you guys have ever been to Wyoming, oh my gosh, y'all, it is like there's like nobody there. Every single I want to say I've been there 3 times. Every single time that I've been there, I'm like, oh, it's like ghost town, y'all. Not very many people live there. To be having drama with your neighbor, I feel like that's like really crazy. Anyways, make sure you guys let me know your thoughts and opinions about everything. I'll catch you guys in my next video. Peace out, Girl Scout.